Coming up this week, how should the federal government react to Donald Trump's views on trade? Also, how should Canada deal with asylum seekers crossing our border? This and much more to come. Hitting the streets, this is Outburst. Hello and welcome to Outburst. I'm Glenn McGuinness. Well, we all knew the relationship might be complicated, and President Donald Trump has made his feelings known about trade with this country, criticizing everything from softwood lumber to milk. Trump also announced a tariff on Canadian softwood lumber, which could be as high as 24%, and also claimed that Canada is making business very difficult for American dairy farmers. So we took to the streets to find out how Canada should counter our question. How should the federal government react to Donald Trump's views on trade?
Personally, I think that I do find Donald Trump and his politics a little scary. It's far more extreme than I would like. However, I think, it just might be an opportunity for us in Canada to think about, well, who are we, and maybe he's going to push us to think a little more clearly about who we are, what we stand for, and not necessarily to push back, but just to be clear on who we are and which hills we're ready to battle on, and let him make us stronger instead of weaker.
Oh wow, I think that we need to take a stronger stance than we are right now. I don't know, I believe that the US and Trump thinks that they can walk all over us right now, and especially with, dairy and lumber, I think that Trudeau and the government should stand up a little more.
I almost think they should ignore it because I think it's kind of ridiculous. I don't think really anything will change. If they trade, for instance, for the lumber industry that's going on in the news right now, if they need it, they need it. Where else are they going to go? Like, we have good quality merchandise, wood. This trade has been going on for a while. So I think they should just sit back and see how much his own country ignores what he's trying to do. So, and then react if something happens.
With the Canadian government and Trump, I think Trudeau's been very cool-headed about it. He's never said anything against them that is demeaning. He has kept his mouth shut about it, so I think that's a good thing to do, because it's not going to help to inflame Donald Trump. He's just going to start tweeting again. So
I think what they're doing right now is probably good enough. There's a sense in which he sort of leads by mouth first and then gets sort of brought up to speed after. The NAFTA discussions last week are a good example of this, where he announces that he's serious about pulling out of NAFTA, and then has a phone call with the president of Mexico and the prime minister and says, well, no, we can do this negotiating. I think you don't react in a sort of reactive way to him, because that doesn't get you anywhere. You just sort of react in a sort of, this is the facts. You talk, you do it sort of slowly and consistently, and that voice will get through once he's stopped founting off.
I think they have to be a little cautious, and I think they actually have it figured out, because it's all about dealing with somebody who needs to be praised, and they've got it figured out. So they don't react too strongly at first. They wait, because it's all bluster to begin with. They don't overreact, and they've got it figured out. They've got it figured out. Okay? They still will need to support Canadians. Don't give him anything he shouldn't get, but just remember, it's all bluster.
They're dealing with Trump very much how I think he should be dealt with. He's the kind of person who will say something big, inflammatory, and he'll walk back on it right away. So there's no point in just playing into that and kind of getting angry and trying to force another reaction. He's trying to force a reaction, and they're staying calm, and I think that's the best they can do. and with the uncertainty of Trump as president.
I think you should take everything he says with a pinch of salt and probably not reply to most of it, because he'll change his mind the next day. So I don't really take it seriously at all. I don't think they should. I mean, he can pretend to take it seriously, but I don't think we should even discuss it. It's a waste of time.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump is seen as a global protectionist. You know, he's looking to build up everything, the infrastructure, and he says point blank, you know, America first. So, I mean, ideally, we should, you know, stick with NAFTA, and hopefully he will, you know, stick with it and rework a few things. But if he looks at the numbers, it's definitely in their benefit, especially with like softwood and milk, I think it is. They're getting a much better deal as it is right now. So, you know, we have to work with our southern neighbors and do the best we can.
I think they're doing the right thing right now. They're trying to be congenial. They're working behind the scenes to try and make some contacts with officials, and
they're hoping he'll go away.
And they're hoping he'll go away. No, I think they're approaching it the right way.
Which province made history by electing the first woman as premier in a general election? Saskatchewan, Ontario, or PEI?
Ontario?
I'm going to go with PEI.
Ontario.
I'm going to guess Ontario.
Ooh. Ontario?
Saskatchewan.
PEI. I don't know.
The answer? PEI.
Good guess.
In 1993, Prince Edward Island's Catherine Colbeck made history as the first woman ever elected premier in a general election. Canada will legalize the recreational use of marijuana in 2018, and that means no new cases for small amounts of pot will be clogging up our legal system. But for those who hold criminal records for small amounts of pot in the past, a reprieve won't be coming anytime soon, if at all. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has suggested his government will look into the matter of erasing some retroactive charges, but that won't happen until the law is changed. So, should the law forgive and forget? Our question. Should criminal records for small amounts of pot be erased when it becomes legal?
Well, that's a very good question. I think on the one hand, I think it is a bit of a burden for the people who've been convicted for small possessions. They shouldn't really be in jail, but at the same time, they did commit a crime that was against the law at the time. But I think there's more to the side of at least maybe reviewing on a case by case, and maybe not just letting everyone out all at once, but taking a look and hopefully letting a lot of those people out of prison or erasing those convictions if they're already out.
Yes, of course.
Why is that?
Because it's if we're legalizing it and people got into trouble in the past, we're recognizing that it's not a criminal offense. So why are we keeping it against some people, and we won't go forward? It doesn't make any sense.
Yes, I think so.
Why is that?
Because I live in Mexico for 6 months of the year, and I know that it's very difficult for some people to get into Mexico if they've got something on their record. And it was something that they did like years ago when they were a stupid kid. I mean, why spoil their life?
So what would you advise moving forward on that front?
Well, they should take it off their record for small amounts. Not trafficking or anything like that, but small amount. Okay. Spoken by somebody who has never even smoked weed, but I might next year when it becomes legal. There you go.
I've been caught with marijuana before, and once it becomes legal, if they erased everything, then there goes your criminal record if you have one, or any other charges against you that would be on your file.
I just find it so minuscule. Such a small thing to be worried about when there's so many worse things to be worried about when it comes to the harder stuff.
For a small amount?
Well, someone has
I think it would set a good precedent. I think it would set a good precedent, and it would set a good precedent because It would tell the public and the Canadians that marijuana is not a bad thing and you're not a criminal if you smoke marijuana.
Well, that's something I had thought about before, but I don't really know. But I can't see leaving it on the record if it's legal now.
Your thoughts?
I agree. I think that small amounts, obviously not large amounts, but small amounts, it's hard to, now that it's legal, leave that there, and that can really impact someone's future. So it's kind of unfair to leave that there, and then the rest of us, you know, in the future, if something happens, go scot-free, I think.
I don't know. I think maybe, just because, I mean, it's not fair if, like, people right now are not gonna get charged for it, and the ones that did before will, like, have been. Yeah, no, I think they should be erased, just because if it's just not fair. But if, yeah, I think, definitely, I think it should.
I think so, yes. I don't think it's worth a kid carrying around, or even an adult, a criminal record for something that people are getting around to legalizing, and most everyone feels that someone over whatever age they establish, and I think it definitely should be the higher end, not the lower end, then they should have those erased and start over with a clean slate.
Yeah, that just makes sense.
Sure, yeah. I guess. Makes sense.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like if it was before the legislation has already been passed, then, like, technically they're still doing something illegal.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, it should not be erased because it was still against the law when they did it and was convicted.
Yeah, that's a good point. Context matters too.
I think small accounts should be erased because, well, it's not really drug trafficking. It's just having a little bit of dope on you. Like, I don't feel that should be a big deal. But I mean, if somebody's like smuggling like a bunch of marijuana into the city, like, then yeah, maybe that's a different story. But yeah, not like a little bag of weed on you or something.
Absolutely. I mean, if it's become decriminalized, then having that on people's permanent records will definitely hinder their upward mobility in the job market. So I would say, yeah.
Well, I don't know. When they got caught back then, it wasn't legal. And not only that, it's getting bad enough as it is. I mean, once they legalize, it's going to be 10 times worse. That's all you'll smell everywhere. And it stinks worse than 10 buckets of you know what.
We're seniors. We're against the marijuana.
We don't even smoke, let alone dope.
How many prime ministers have there been since Confederation? 23, 33, or 43?
43?
43.
33.
I'll go with 33.
33.
I think it's 23.
23.
It is 23, sir.
Okay.
Very good. In 2015, Justin Trudeau became the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada. The situation continues to be tense between the U.S. and North Korea. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has stated that they're ready for total war with the U.S. and added the U.S. almost brought the Korean peninsula to the brink of nuclear war after a pair of American bombers conducted test drills in the region. So we asked Canadians how they feel about the situation. Our question: how concerned are you about tensions between the U.S. and North Korea?
I don't know. I think that it's like could be a point of worry. I think that there's gonna be a lot of talk and there's gonna be a lot of who's the bigger, badder guy, and both governments want to prove that. I think Kim Jong-un is just trying to prove that he's some forces to reckon with. I don't know if it's something that we in Canada should be worrying about right now. Neither country wants to blow up some other country. I don't believe that's the goal for either. It's just more about showing power, so I don't believe there's a real worry there.
It's in my mind. I'm more interested to just sit back and see what happens and react when something happens, but I don't know who's going to pull the trigger first, Trump or North Korea. So, a little bit. I was worried when this whole presidential thing happened that possibly World War III might break out soon, and it almost feels like it's in the starting of it, and if North Korea jumps in, I think that could be it.
I'm very concerned, and again, because it's Mr. Trump, he is unpredictable, and I don't know that he has very good policies yet. He hasn't said anything that helps us think that he has a policy on these types of conflicts, and it's very unnerving to me. We don't know what's going to happen next.
Well, I think it's definitely a political focus on the whole world. It is concerning, definitely. If something happens, it's going to be in our backyard as well. So.
North Korea, they're always every few years tend to act up. Usually it has to do with getting aid or food aid from the U.S. and South Korea or the UN. With Donald Trump as president, it's a little riskier. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what they're going to do. So it's definitely a little worrying. I'm not overly worried. I don't think, or at least I hope we're not going to end up in a full-scale war anytime soon. I think with China in the region, as well as even our allies, Japan and Korea in the region, I think they have a vested interest in not having a full-out war, and I think because of that, things will be worked out in a way that won't lead to nuclear war or anything like that.
I'm very concerned about that. I think that it's a big power play game that they're playing. I think there's things that are going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I think that both of them kindly need to smarten up, and that they need to think about their people and what they're doing to their people, particularly the leader of North Korea. Those are people who are human beings, and they have the right to live their life. And when there's tensions like that, it's not just, it doesn't just affect North Korea and the States, it affects all of us. And so kindly, I think that both of them need to be more considerate to the people that they're leading.
I'm very concerned. We're both very concerned. We talk about it all the time because it only takes one finger on a button and you could have a terrible, terrible disaster in a part of the world that saw the only 2 nuclear weapons ever exploded over populated areas. So I think it's of great concern to everyone, and I think it's of a concern that China would be forced to intervene on the side of North Korea and America on the side of South Korea, and we could have the most enormous border war that we've seen in maybe half a century.
I think I'm concerned with that, but I'm concerned with all the tension in the world now. I think, unfortunately, we're heading for a third world war, and I don't know if that will be the thing that starts it, but there's going to be trouble. So I think that the North Korean leader is a loose cannon, but then so is Trump, so what can we do? It's not going to be pleasant.
Actually, very. It's because, we're their neighbors, so whatever affects them in that capacity will affect us. So that I am watching, and I am concerned.
I would say ultimately there probably will be some kind of a conflict going on there, but I believe that Trump, as we've seen, will give in to some international pressure and not go in there and bomb them back to the Stone Age. But Kim Jong or Kim Un is a very he's a wild card, so you never know, but he's giving in to Chinese pressure also. So hopefully they can work it out in a peaceful manner.
As I'm sure you're aware, Canada celebrates its 150th birthday this year. CPAC has partnered with Historica Canada, who have launched a nationwide multilingual contest to help Canada celebrate its big anniversary. They're inviting Canadians to express what Canada means to them in a 30-second video, and each week we'll be showing you 3 of them. To submit your own video, visit here'smycanada.ca.
As Canadians, we are proud of our traditional sports. One of those traditional sports is lacrosse.
The natives came up with the game, but it was not called lacrosse, it was called bagataway.
Lacrosse is Canada's national summer sport.
It is also played nationwide and for all ages.
There are many famous First Nation lacrosse players all around the world.
Being Native as well as a Canadian, lacrosse is my sport.
This is our Canada.
Here's my Canada. Voici mon Canada, où le mariage homosexuel est légal and gender does not fit into two categories, où les familles viennent en toute forme, and where my daughters will be able to do everything my sons will be able to do. Here we are Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jewish, Aboriginal, non-religious, and so much more. Nous provenons de plus de 200 pays d'origine et parlons plus de 200 langues.
We speak more than 200 languages.
Hey guys, aajo, a hockey game shuru hone wali hai. Gold medal game hai.
Dad said the gold medal hockey game is going to start. Sidney Crosby is the best on the team.
No. Jonathan Tays jada changa hai. Unne goal kita si.
No, Carey Price south of vadiya hai. Carey Price is the best of all.
No, the Sedines on the mayor.
Most of us are aware of the plight of refugees crossing into Canada from the U.S. seeking asylum. In fact, between January and March of this year, almost 9,000 asylum claims have been filed in this country. So with these rising numbers, what approach should the federal government take? Our question. How should Canada deal with asylum seekers crossing our borders?
I think if they're in danger, if their life is in danger, then yes, they should be allowed to come. If they're just looking for a free place to live, maybe not.
I don't have the faintest idea.
Very good. I do. They're letting them all come in from the other countries anyway, bringing them over. They can't even handle our medical or education system now, and they're bringing in 10 times more. So they better get used to it. So it's got to get worse. It ain't going to get better.
You want to go with that one?
No, that I think is your category.
I think they should process them the same way they would process whether it's the Tamils coming ashore in Yarmouth many years ago or others coming ashore. We have rules for asylum seekers and they should consider it. But having said that, the courts have turned down a lot of the initiatives that Trump signed off just as president without approval of Congress. So I think it's a little early to panic on that one.
I think they need to be vetted because there's always a danger that they're coming in under false pretenses. They're not really running away from anything. They want to maybe cause damage here. So we have to be careful who we let in. But I think if they have a legitimate reason, if they're really running for their lives, I think we should try and be kind to them and help them stay here, really.
I would say the way we're doing it right now with picking them up and bringing them so that they can be registered and, looked at on a case-by-case basis, I think that's the way to do it. I mean, right now, there's a lot of afraid people in the States, and it's better to open our borders like we did with the Syrian refugees.
That's interesting, because I'm from southern Manitoba, where there's been a huge boom, especially in the small community of Emerson, and it's been pretty dangerous. Well, it was in winter, minus 30 weather, and I don't know, I think Trudeau needs to be really careful with the rhetoric that he is using of Canada as an open country for all, because what a lot of people don't realize is that once the people cross the border illegally, they're not just home run, home free here, there's processes, and I know that a lot do get rejected, and Canada's trying to deal with that in the courts, and I think that we just need to make sure that our government's wording and their welcomeness aligns with what's actually happening, so that people aren't coming here expecting to stay and expecting wow, this great life, and really there's gonna be trials to come too. But I do think that we need to open our borders, and we do need to love these people who have nowhere to go. So it's a tricky situation, but just align our policies and our words.
Well, I'm pro refugee acceptance in Canada, and I think it should apply to the same. We should get a program going to see what we can do for these people. Why are they not staying in the States, and why is it at the point it's at in the United States that they have to go through horrible weather and freeze their feet and their toes off because what, Mr. Trump's in power now? That's ridiculous. He should do his job and take care of the people who are in his country, right?
I think they should be on a case-by-case, and I think you need to look at the individual. I don't feel right about putting them all in one, because if I was that mom coming across the border and I needed to get away, I would want to be recognized.
I think they have to be kind, let them in. Once they're in, make sure, check them all out thoroughly. If they're, hey, I'm an immigrant. I came here 40 years ago from Scotland. They let me in, let them all in. It's a big country, lots of room, but make sure we don't get any bad guys, and they can do that by checking them out thoroughly.
I think if there's a way that we could essentially, if we could get rid of that safe third party or third country agreement. However, I'm not an expert in foreign relations, so I don't know what the repercussions on that may be. But ideally, having people come in and still being able to apply, but through a legal channel rather than crossing illegally, would be ideal. But then again, I don't know what that would entail in terms of our relationship with the United States.
Well, I think that's going to be a reality because I'm sure that there's a lot of people from the States who are going to want to come to Canada. And they have their own reasons for wanting to do that. But I think that they definitely need to welcome the asylum seekers, but they need to have sort of a plan in place on how they're going to deal with them. Asylum seekers are not criminals. They should not be treated like criminals. They shouldn't, but technically they are refugees. So if a refugee comes into Canada, it doesn't matter from whatever country they're from, that's Canada's responsibility to take care of them.
Which prominent Canadian politician was born in the United States? Kathleen Wynne, Elizabeth May, Rona Ambrose.
Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May.
Ambrose.
Elizabeth May.
I think so as well. Elizabeth May.
Kathleen? May.
It's May.
Yay!
You did well.
Thank you.
Elizabeth May was born in Hartford, Connecticut to a British father and American mother. The family moved to Margaree Harbour, Cape Breton in 1972. That's all for this episode of Outburst. Like what you see? Well, you can watch more episodes on our website at www.cpac.ca, on our CPAC TV To Go app, as well as on our YouTube channel. You can also join the conversation via social media on Twitter and Instagram at CPAC_TV. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of all my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.